The voice of the drum calls. It sings a song of those who came before us and those to come. A song of survival and strength. A song of participation and voice. A song that calls us together. When we come together and participate in the 2010 census, we use this tool as the voice of all our Native people. Our voice. It is in our hands. 2010 census.
Welcome to this edition of the Native News Update on this Tuesday, April 27th. I'm your host for today's program, Paul DeMain. Many of the stories read here can also be found at our website at IndianCountryNews.com. Here are some of the news stories for the day from the Associated Press and other Native news sources. 3 men have pled guilty to charges of arson and conspiracy for fires that burned 6 homes on the Turtle Mountain Reservation in North Dakota to the ground. The U.S. Attorney's Office identified the men as 19-year-old Brock Chedester of Rolla and 21-year-old Troy Trottier and John Houle, both of Belcourt. South Dakota say the men admitted to entering several homes on December 13, 2008 and setting fires with a lighter. 6 homes burned to the ground. The men pled guilty to 6 counts each of arson and 1 count of conspiracy. Sentencings are set for July 12th in Minot, North Dakota. Each faces up to 5 years for the conspiracy charges and 25 years on each of the arson charges. A suspected drunken driver accused of causing a crash that killed a sheriff's deputy was in court on April 26 in Vilas County, Wisconsin. Vilas County Sheriff's officials say 29-year-old Corey Dalvig was killed while responding to a call to assist Lac du Flambeau Tribal Police about 8:30 p.m. on April 25th. Investigators say Deputy Dalvig's squad car hit the back of a dump truck that had pulled out onto the highway. A 49-year-old Lac du Flambeau man was arrested on suspicion of drunken driving shortly after that. Dalvig worked for the Lac du Flambeau Tribal Police before joining the Vilas County Sheriff's Department about 2 years ago. An attorney wants evidence thrown out that was gathered by an FBI informant who spent 2 years helping the government build its case in the largest ever artifacts looting case. 66-year-old Robert Knowlton of Grand Junction is accused of selling 3 items stolen from federal land to an FBI informant on their payroll by the name of Ted Gardner, a 52-year-old Utah antiquities dealer who committed suicide last month. Knowlton attorney Jeffrey Paglusha says videotapes and audio recordings made by Gardner are now inadmissible at trial because Gardner can't be questioned in court about them. Prosecutors have until April 30th to respond. A hearing on the matter is set in Denver, Colorado District Court for May 28th as well. An Arizona tribe has ended a 7-year legal fight over blood samples members gave to a university scientist for diabetes research that were later used to study schizophrenia, inbreeding, and ancient population migration on what tribal members called a case of genetic piracy. The Havasupai, who live deep in the gorge off of the Grand Canyon, settled their lawsuit with Arizona State University in an agreement announced last week and approved by the legislature's Joint Legislative Budget Committee shortly after. The Havasupai claim ASU conducted the additional research without permission, invading tribal members' privacy, betraying the tribe's trust, and misrepresenting what researchers had done with blood samples and subsequent research results. The settlement includes a lump $700,000 payment to the 41 plaintiffs, and the university has agreed to help the tribe seek third-party funding to build a new health clinic and high school in the isolated village. ASU also has agreed to give the tribe the more than 200 blood samples, which members say will be buried in a sacred ceremony, some with the remains of people who gave the blood. Tribal members gave their blood to scientists in the 1990s, thinking it would be used to help cure diabetes. The research, though, concluded that diabetes among the tribe was not related at all to genetics. A second-year student at the University of South Dakota of Law has been elected president of a national legal society. Lonnie Wright says he will use his position with the Native American Law Students Association to attract more American Indians to the legal profession. Wright is an enrolled member of the Rosebud Sioux tribe and has served as a board member for the association. Navajo Nation employees had April 26th off in recognition of the tribe's sovereignty. The tribal council has set aside a day 25 years ago to celebrate the tribe's right to govern itself. That was the year the U.S. Supreme Court recognized the Navajo Nation's right to impose taxes without the approval from the federal government. The holiday is now celebrated the fourth Monday in April every year because it can be. Navajo President Joe Shirley Jr. says the concept of sovereignty is simple to the Navajos, asserting one's independence. And if I remember right, they have a Treaty Day or Sovereignty Day here on the Oreilles Reservation, which is suspiciously held the day after the Super Bowl. And that is the latest roundup of news from Indian Country on this edition of the Native News Update. We want to thank all of you for showing up and watching this show. Come back again soon. Miigwech.